to my party, we're just getting started. A life is a dream or a nightmare scarring. Hand me a drink cause I think I'm going all in. Get me a shrink who can catch me when I'm falling. Cover up my scars, flip the handlebars, crashing in my car, wake up in a bar. I'll be a superstar, just on my avatar.
Hey there guys, and welcome to Story Demon. I am Chris Oak, also known as David C. Oak, the author of the new and exciting New York Times best-selling Nobel Peace from Mirov.
Goal. Everybody's goal.
I think it won the Congressional Medal of Honor too. Well, anyway.
While you're at it.
And you are the lovely and talented
Celeste Prater. I am a published author of Fueled by Lust series, a romance series. I'm also the author of Visiting Darkness, which is a crime thriller / paranormal that's also been written into a screenplay. And I've also written some memoirs for Chad Dean from My 600-Pound Life and helped some other people out. So anyway, yeah, all kinds of genres.
And you really have won awards. I was just joking about mine. You really have.
Yeah, I do have a lot of awards. It was fun winning them, like a Passionate Ink award. I came in top 3. I did all kinds of different ones. 5 stars, reviews from international readers.
Nice.
Review contest, and just a couple, an audio book reviewer, ABR annual book review for Visiting Darkness, won the Choice Award for that one as well too. So that was, they said it was like giving a higher than a 5-star for a book.
Oh, wow.
That was a really, really cherished one right there. So that was fun.
Well, speaking of writing and awards and all of our experiences and stuff, today you had an idea for a topic that was about genre and theme, and you had some ideas about this. What were your ideas today?
Well, I've got to think about people who want to start writing, or they have this idea in their head, and they go, okay, so I want to write this story. And if you even try to explain it to anybody, how would you explain to what your story is about? So when I'm saying genre, and a lot of people may not even know what that word is, and just like I mentioned a minute ago, I write in a genre of erotic romance. I write in a genre of crime thriller, suspense, mystery. I write also in memoir, which means I'm writing a story for someone who gives me a history of what happened to them about this particular story. And so there's different genres that you can go into. So you may have, and in yours, Chris, is it's not romance. It's not a stick of romance in it, but there's action, suspense, vengeance, all. So there's a genre you're going to fit in. And you also have to explain this to any publishers that you want to go to. Like, I'm not going to take a genre of crime thriller to my romance publisher. They'll laugh me out of the house. If I didn't put some really good sex going on in my romance book, then my publisher for romance wouldn't talk to me. So you got to know what genre that you're going to find yourself in. Horror, there's all kinds of different type. And then you could have meshing of type, like a main one, which is I've got romance in my Fueled by Lust books, but I also love the action, suspense. I've got battles. I've got all kinds of, so you got subgenres. So mine would be romance, action, suspense. It could even be a psychological thriller. It depends on what I want to write in there. So, but your main one is the one that's really going to drive your story. This also could apply to screenplays. So, Chris, kind of give me some background on that.
Well, so back in the indie movie days, this might be a little bit different take, but when we did our movies, of course, you could sort of start with genre in a sense. At one point we wanted to make a zombie picture, and we actually went into production on a zombie one time. It didn't get finished. That's a whole nother podcast. Well, that didn't get finished, but in short version is it came out of nowhere. Central Texas had a monsoon season. Oh. And we couldn't finish filming it, and then people sort of drew to the part, and then that was kind of that. But in developing a genre, like in that case, a zombie movie, you have certain expectations you have to consider for the audience. Same thing applies to action and even romance or anything like that. You have to consider the audience expectations. So, like when you see the movie poster or you watch the trailer, talk about movies now with the indie movie stuff. When you get sold a movie, you have certain expectations before you even buy the ticket. Kind of like when you go to a restaurant, you see a steakhouse, just by the implication of being a steakhouse, you're going to expect certain items. You're going to expect a steak, a ribeye, a prime rib, a T-bone. You're going to expect a baked potato, things like that. And Tex-Mex is going to be a certain, on and on and on and on. So no different than with the genre. So what we really had to make sure is we delivered some minimum expectations. Now, you could always have fun with those and put twists on them and things like that. But if you're going to have a zombie picture, first thing you know is you're going to have zombies. I mean, it's the first thing obvious. You're going to have zombies, which means you got to have your makeup ready and stuff. And then it's kind of by default, how do you kill a zombie? Well, you have to hit them in the head and knock out the brain. So you have to like check off these things for your genre in order to satisfy the audience. And then you can get creative. You can be creative with those too. And then you can get beyond that and go get more arty or more whatever and defy conventions and stuff. But you have to meet some sort of minimum expectations. In the case of Mirov, and I could probably speak to you as Visiting Darkness for you, with it being I don't know what you could call Visiting Darkness. To me, it was a cop. It was a cop book. It was a cop show. I mean, it had ethereal elements and spiritual elements and probably better words than those to it. But at heart, to me, Max is a hard-boiled detective. Exactly. You could take him out of that and drop him into, a Humphrey Bogart movie for the 40s, and he would work, Right. and so it met certain cop. It checked off certain cop things. And then with Mirov, to me, it was always an action. Keep in mind, it started as a movie in my head before it was a book. So to me, it was always an action movie. Die Hard, Mission Impossible, whatever. So I was always worried about meeting action expectations, which meant every chapter had to have something happen. It didn't have to be an explosion and guns going off, but something had to happen. Without giving anything away, there's a chapter in Mirov where she has to hurt herself. If you've read the book, you don't talk about to get rid of a tracking device. And there was no action, quote unquote, in that chapter, but that was a really big, awkward, unusual thing. So that was the action piece of that chapter. So I made sure each one hit a moment. So that's the kind of my experience has been with screenplays, and then with Mirov, you have to sort of meet expectations.
Right. So it doesn't matter whether it's a movie, a screenplay, whether it's a novel you're trying to put together. It's a story, and you got to have to find your framework first to make sure that you stay within it, like he just said, which is you have to deliver to your audience. Which is, I'm going to give them this, but I'm also going to give them some other goodies while I'm writing the meat of it, going through your twists, your turns, your plots, whatever. So, knowing your genre is extremely important. And also, that has a lot to do with marketing your particular thing. And I was telling Chris earlier, I said, nothing makes me grit my teeth more is how many times I had to defend my Fueled by Lust series. I got, somebody would walk up to me. I had somebody at work one time do this to me. I was like, what? She goes, you write porn. I said, have you read my books? She goes, no, you write porn. I was like, okay, you already got your mindset that I'm a porn writer. And so in this particular thing, I want to explain to people that no, it's a romance book. It may be erotic, but there's romance in it. And so I purposely pulled up the definition of pornography just to sate myself here. And I'm going to read it to you, which is pornography, printed or visual material containing the explicit description or display of sexual organs or activity. But there's an extra little line here. It says intended to stimulate erotic rather than aesthetic or emotional feelings. Right. So it's the complete opposite of porn. Even though there's sexual activity, there's this emotional bond that's going on through it. It's not a Hallmark story where they just walk behind the door and all this stuff may happen behind the door and the music, violins are playing. I get to take you into the bedroom with them and show how much they're very bonded and together. So it pisses me off when people say I write porn and they don't know what they're talking about. So that means you have to be able to defend your genre. How do you defend that? By telling them, look, this is the established genre for horror. This is established genre for memoir. This is, whatever.
You can have cross elements of things into other things, and you can have things that stimulate a reaction, not stimulate in the sense of like your definition of pornography. But when you're reading that and you were talking about it, I kept thinking of do you remember the movie Excalibur from the 80s? It was about King Arthur and all that stuff. It was like 1981 or so they made it. And there's a scene in that movie that always I thought was very visceral. It's when Arthur's dad, before Arthur's born, has lust for this other king's wife. And Merlin turns him into where he looks like the husband, and he goes to what will be Arthur's mom, and basically, takes her. She thinks it's her husband, but it's actually Uther in disguise. And the scene is very, 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 very passionate, stimulating, whatever. And he takes her, and it's definitely gives you an aesthetic. It's a highly sexual scene. It gives you this. It has a sexual aesthetic, but it's also very emotional. It's a very visceral scene. That scene is not pornography.
Right.
It's stimulating in the sense of the visceralness and the reaction to it, because the passion of it heightens the fact that doom is to come. Because after that, not to give it away, but the movie's been out for like 30 years or whatever. So after that, Uther is then killed. Right. Arthur, the baby is born. That is Arthur. Merlin takes the baby as part of the deal, and then Uther is killed. So that passion of taking Arthur's mom leads directly to this violence that kills Uther. So they're connected. So you have this stimulation leading to this other stimulation, and it's all visceral stuff. To call one porn and the other,
art,
whatever. Yeah, there's a big difference. But that scene is in no way, shape, or form porn, but it's a very graphic scene. It shows Arthur putting a baby.
Yeah, exactly right. It's
graphic. Putting a baby in Arthur's mouth. There's nothing left of imagination whatsoever. But there's a difference. It's kind of like the old Supreme Court thing. I don't know porn, but I know it when I see it.
Right, exactly.
That's a great example of that. So, your books stick to the genre. Your books are the scene of Excalibur.
Right, exactly. These people meet. There's a reason for a meeting. They go through all this crap in their life and stuff, and how they're trying to learn each other and stuff. It's not like meeting in the bar. Hey, I think you're a hot hunk. Let's go out to the alley and hump against the dumpster. To me, that's porn. I'm just in for the sex, and then I'll call you. Let's hump up against the dumpster. And the only reason why I even thought that
wait a second. There should be a porn series called "Hump at the Dump." It's all
Hump at the Dumpster. Well, the only reason, because I have this image in my brain from the 80s, which is, hardcore, is I actually witnessed that coming out of the nightclub one time, and there was these people over by the dumpster just going at it, thinking, oh my God, where's your sense of worth? Where did that go? Does alcohol really do that too? So that always stuck in my head, porn, whenever I think, humping up against the dumpster.
Humping the dumpster.
Hump in the dumpster.
So what else was I genre? After that genre. Back to genre. So you're meeting the expectations of erotica, right? Erotica is the correct name. Erotica. So you're
erotic. Yeah, erotica. So when you see the A on the end, erotica, that's the publisher trying to tell you that it is closest to porn you're going to get. With supposed romance with it, but erotic romance. When you see that, romance. That's a Celeste style book. That's
Celeste is erotic romance.
Erotic romance. And what makes me mad is when I get on to Amazon and there's my book sitting there, and guess what they got it underneath? Erotica. Erotica romance. They don't have one for erotic romance, so they don't know what the hell they're doing on.
You know the hell of it is. Speaking of Excalibur and your books, if you were to take your books and genre them as fantasy, you could probably not change a word and they'd know they would notice.
Right. I've had a lot of readers tell me, hey, the story is so well written in it that they said even if you pulled the sex completely out of it and just made it what they call blue, which is purple prose, which is, they walk off into the room, there's some head banging the headboard in there, but you don't get to see it, you don't get to hear about it, whatever. Just they're just very happy when they come out. Right. Then I could make it a fantasy story. My genre would completely change, to that romance. It wouldn't be erotic romance. It'd just be romance, sci-fi with some romance or whatever. So defining your genre is so, so, so important. And also, what was the other part I was going to talk about was the leading up to our next topic. Well, about your genre, theme. We were also going to talk about theme, which is once you know your genre, then you say, what's your theme of your story?
So how would you define theme? I think I know what you're going with, but
theme to me is not this 50-page summary of everything that summarized down on your book. It's just basically saying what is the heart and core of what you're trying to get across to your reader. Like mine would be, and the Fueled by Lust would be romance with heat and heart. Okay, there's my theme. Is you got a lot of heat, going to it, but there's heart with it. So that's how I would define my theme for the Fueled by Lust. And mine, Visiting Darkness, would be crime thriller, mystery crime thriller with seeking justice. Because something has to be justice there at the end. And for Mirov, yours would be?
Well, Mirov to me was always about, at its heart, about how far will you go to save someone you love. That's right. And in the case of Mirov, it's really fucking far. It's
right. Yeah, I go so far to kill others to because of the love I hold.
She damn near kills herself to save someone else, and definitely leaves a trail of bodies behind her of people trying to hurt that which she loved. And to me, and see that, and we're all informed by our own histories and past and presence for that matter. And I wrote that. Coming off of what we went through with Trish and her transplant and her damn near dying. I mean, she was not to go belabor the story. We can do a whole podcast on that some other time, but Trish, my better half, was this close to dying, and we had to pull out a lot of Hail Marys to get her saved, and we did. And then lockdown happened immediately after that, so I had too much time on my hands. So that I just parlayed that into the book. And I knew what I had went through to get her fixed. And so to me, Mirov was fueled by that, taking this character. And I didn't go through what Mirov went through because I wasn't, jumping off exploding buildings and things like that. But emotionally, it felt relevant. It was what Mirov went through physically and how I felt emotionally.
Yeah, and a stress relief for you.
Oh, God, yeah. It was a major stress dump. It was major.
Right. So that's the same thing with your writing. Like we're talking to the potential authors out here, what I call author wannabes. I want to be an author. Well, there's a big thing that you have to walk through to become that. You can write stuff all day long on a piece of paper. That makes you a writer. But to be an author is I'm going to build this story in this world for my readers. I want them to almost like get sucked right into the middle of that. It's a whole different world, and they're in there. They're not just reading it from outside. And that's the whole goal. Authors have to be halfway insane, which I think we fit that criteria. That I felt sometimes like when I'm in the middle of writing my story and somebody will knock on my office door, and I get really just bent because I tell myself, you have no idea. It's like the equivalent is like reaching into this ethereal, glowing thing in my office, yanking me by the hair out of that story. I've left my character like midstream, moving. He's like going, Celeste coming back and finish writing what's happening to me. So that's what I feel like. You yank me away from my characters.
Well, so, I don't know if the scene is in the book, but I know it's in the movie because I've never read the book. But in The Shining, when Jack Nicholson looks at Wendy, he goes, "Every time you come in here, you're breaking my concentration." That scene?
Yeah,
that is the most dead accurate scene of an author and their process. No movie even comes close. That is the most accurate scene because the people you live with are who you love the most, and these are the most dear and near people to you. And even them, when you're writing, they come and they can't help it. They got stuff they need, right? You know, and your brain knows they can't help it, but
Right.
come in
Exactly.
here and they have to interrupt you. And in your mind, you're like, "Would you get the fuck out of here? What in the fuck you doing?" And
I love you, but I hate you at the same time.
it's I love you, but oh my god, could you be anywhere else but here right now? Because it really does. To me, I always view it as a house of cards. It really is. That is that moment where the cards crumble, and
it's hard to build them back up because I have to sometimes I'll go back a whole 2 chapters to catch myself back up in that world.
Yeah.
And then I get right there again and I see the flow and my characters are talking to me all of a sudden, deep, 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 or the phone. I usually keep it off, but my husband will say, on the word, I'm like, I love you, but I'm going to stab you in the heart next time.
That's the reason why so many writers. I know you're a like early morning writer. I'm a late night writer, and the reason, and most writers are some sort of extreme, unless they reach the point like you can write during the day and you've got secretaries and assistants to sort of like wall off the world from you. Until you've reached that point, most authors pick early morning or late at night. You and I are. You're morning at night.
Yeah, I'm 4:30 in the morning, but then that was the Marine Corps did that to me. But yeah, early, you know, working out and getting into my book.
Most of Mirov was written after they went to bed.
Right. My people were still asleep. My dogs were asleep. My dogs weren't begging to go outside. It was just me and in here, you know, and I work full time. So yeah, that's the only time I get is early in the morning. Sometimes I'll try to write at night and that just gets busted a lot. But weekends, people know leave me alone here on my weekends because
Sunday's my day. It's very well known. It's a known thing. Saturday I'll run around town. I'll do whatever. I'll do day trips. Saturday is all for the family, but Sunday is my day. Period.
Exactly. And just want to tell all these future authors, because we're hoping we're going to help you through this. Again, we're going back to our subject, which is know what you want to tell your readers. And I can't stress this enough. If you don't have your little framework down before you start writing that first line, you're going to get stuck in 800 words, even if that far, and go, where do I go? Writer's block. Writer's block to me, which I've never had, is because I see other authors do this a lot, which is I like free form writing. I'm just going to write what's going on and just, you know, it'll take me where I need to go. No. Know your genre, know what theme you want to do, what you're going to bring to your audience. And then I'll just briefly touch on this. Our next subject that we're going to be going into is the outline. Everybody goes, oh, that outline, like it's this horrible demon that's going to get you. You know why? Don't you remember when you're in English class in high school and they go, yeah, you're going to do an outline of what you're going to write about, blah. And they won't let you go any further until you finish that outline, right? Well, that doesn't really work with us authors. So we'll be going into outlines later, but I'm going to make you understand how they are your best friend. And me and Chris, I'm sure he hated it too, because I beat him over the head about where are you going with this, where you want to go, and that's part of that outline. But before you get there, you got to know, what am I going to write? What is my genre? What is my theme?
We could talk more about the outline and the outline thing, but I always use the screenplay story structure outline, and I even use that in the Mirov, the book. And we'll talk more about it. So I think there's plenty of methods out there. People can find their own. But back on the subject of genre, the one thing I would add here quickly is I have something that I actually want to do something with. It might be a podcast subject one day, but I call it the rule of normalcy. The rule of normalcy applies to life in general. It applies to writing books, but also applies to a lot of life decisions. It's what I call the rule of normalcy. And I'm a football fan, an NFL fan, which sometimes I have a love-hate relationship with the NFL. But Tom Brady, the quarterback, if you really look at his career, really, 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 really look at his career. And I hated the guy because I was not a Patriots fan. He always beat my teams. But he did have some elaborate, big throws and throw at 50-yard touchdowns, stuff like that. He did have some of those moments. But 98.9% of the time, Tom Brady just threw 7, 8, 10-yard, 12-yard completions. He just methodically moved the ball down the field. He didn't get fancy. He didn't get cute. He didn't run around in circles and throw Hail Marys. 98.9% of the time, it was just enough to get the next first down and get the next set downs. That first Super Bowl run, all he did was throw first downs. He didn't throw 500 yards and 8 touchdowns. Where I'm going with that is this. He just took what was given and simple, and he wins 7 Super Bowls. He just did the normal things really well. The rule of normalcy. He did the normal. The best cheeseburgers are bun, meat, cheese, lettuce, tomato, onion, pickle, and mayonnaise or mustard.
Exactly.
No guacamole, no foo-foo bun, no bullshit. Those are the best burgers, right? Best pizza is cheese and pepperoni, right?
Maybe some sausage.
Yeah.
And this brings me, and what you're saying right now brings me back to the point when you said, hey, how can I not write it? Why do I have to write it this way, Celeste? Why do I have to do it this rule-based thing you're telling me? I want to be able to do whatever I want to in this. I'm like, follow the rules first. Then when you become a Stephen King, you can play.
I had to learn the rule of normalcy for books.
Thank you. Yes.
That's what I had to learn.
Otherwise, you were all over the place.
So now we told everybody about genre and about expectations and stuff. What are your final thoughts on genre for the folks listening?
I want to give a little homework out to our listeners, which is if you're serious about writing a book or you already have something in mind right now, I want you to sit down. I want you to write out what you think your genre is. And I want you to put as much as you can on your theme, which is where do I want to take this? If you already know good, then you're going to be ready to go into our next shows to be able to tell you some more things. Or if you're like, hey, I know what I want to write. I know what my genre is. I know what my theme is. I'm just stuck on being able to start the story. So then you'll be very happy when you go into our next one, which we'll be dealing with the outlines, how to get your structure going before you head out.
And genre is know the expectations of the audience and meet the minimum expectations. I'll just throw this like The Last Jedi, the Star Wars movie, The Last Jedi. There's a reason why everybody hates that movie because he thought he was going to be Mr. Defy Conventions. Well, guess what? People wanted a Star Wars movie and he fucked them over, and now everybody hates that movie. So, you know what I mean? Don't try and outsmart your audience. Just deliver to the audience. Be clever within the genre, not piss all over. Basically.
Right. And don't pretend like you're Stephen King until you finally get there. Or
earn the right.
Earn it. Right.
There's a famous story. Brian De Palma, in his early days making a movie in the 70s, he had, I think it was Bernard Herrmann scoring a movie. And he had done something. He was a big fan of Hitchcock. He did something with this movie, and Bernard Herrmann, the composer, was like, "I'm not doing that because you messed this all up with the movie." And De Palma says, "No, I didn't. I did exactly what Hitchcock did." And Bernard Herrmann looked at it. De Palma says, "Well, you're not Hitchcock."
Right. Exactly.
So, earn
it
to change the genre.
Exactly.
Earn the right to change the genre.
That's a good ending right there.
And with that,
yeah.